This video is sponsored by Shortboxed, the easiest and safest way to buy and sell comic books, both raw and graded. Download the app today using the link in the description. Reggie here, and I want to welcome you to another one of my videos. In this video, we are going to count down the top 10 most purchased comics on the Shortboxed app for the month of August. And this is a very dynamic list. There are only 2 books on this month's list that were actually on the list the month before. 80% of this list has actually turned over, which I think is kind of exciting, to be honest with you. Before we get to this list, I want to encourage you to go ahead and subscribe to the channel now. Go ahead and turn on notifications, and that way you won't miss any of the content that gets released. With that said, let's get to the list. The number 10 book on the list is Savage She-Hulk issue number 1, the first appearance and origin of She-Hulk, aka Jennifer Walters. Currently, there are 13,805 blue label copies of this comic on the CGC census. The 9.8 has a 30-day average value of $414. I've heard people say that this comic is forever ruined by the She-Hulk TV show. I don't know whether that's true or not, but the fact that it's on the list might say otherwise. Number 9, Edge of Spider-Verse issue number 2. This book is the first appearance of Gwen Stacy as Spider-Woman. The CGC census shows 6,901 total blue labels have been graded, which includes 3,417 9.8s. The 30-day average for the 9.8 has reached $1,181, exceeding the 1-year average by roughly $50. Number 8 on the list is Batman issue number 423, up 2 spots thanks to an iconic cover from Todd McFarlane. The 9.8 of this book goes for a crazy amount of money. A 9.8 recently sold for $2,750, and like the last comic on the list, this book has exceeded the 1-year average. Number 7 is Spider-Man 2099 issue number 1, the first appearance and origin of Spider-Man 2099. The CGC census shows a total of 8,719 blue labels have been graded, and roughly 40% of those are 9.8s. The 9.8 has a 30-day average value of $166, which is lower than the 90-day but higher than the 1-year average for this book. Number 6, Ultimate Fallout issue number 4. It's back on the list. This book is, of course, the first appearance of Miles Morales. 15,574 universal copies of this book have been graded by CGC, with 26.1% of them landing a 9.8. The most recent sale for the 9.8 was $1,700, which is north of the 30-day average of $1,587. We have reached the halfway mark in the countdown of the top 10 most purchased books on the Shortboxed app for the month of August. The 5th book on the list is one that I actually caution people against buying. I am, of course, talking about X-Men issue number 130. This book is the first appearance of Dazzler and also Sebastian Shaw. This book is also the second appearance of both Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost. There are presently 4,420 blue label copies of this comic out there, with the 9.8 commanding a 30-day average value of $1,297. The most recent sale for this book was $1,043. I actually cautioned people against buying this book previously because of timing. There is a rumor that Taylor Swift is going to take on the role of Dazzler in the Deadpool 3 movie, and as a result of that, my thought was that there's going to be a lot more people that are going to be looking at this book, potentially picking it up, potentially driving the prices up, and maybe the timing wasn't right. Now, what's really interesting about this rumor is that this rumor has actually been around since 2014. It has come around again that Taylor was going to be taking on this role. I don't know whether it's going to happen or not, but time will tell. Number 4 is X-Men issue number 4, the first appearance of Omega Red. This book is one that consistently shows up on the top 10 most submitted books for CGC, another video that I do here on the channel. So I'm not surprised to see this one on the most sold list as well, because there's a ton of copies out there. To that point, there are currently 11,744 total Blue Label copies of this comic graded by CGC. The 9.8, which accounts for roughly 40% of the graded copies, has a 30-day average of $115, with the most recent sale landing at just $75. Number 3 on the list is Wolverine issue number 1, the limited series, and this book is down 2 spots on the list, but up in value. There are 21,465 Blue Label copies of this awesome comic on the census, with 18% of them landing a 9.8. The 9.8 has a 30-day average of $731, which is up from the 90-day at $684 and up from the 1 year at $703. This book, of course, is the first solo title featuring Wolverine. Number 2 is issue number 1 of Moon Knight from 1980. This book is the first self-titled and ongoing series featuring Moon Knight. I recently highlighted this book as an affordable Bronze Age key for people to snag. Currently, there are 10,689 Blue Labels of this comic on the census. The 9.8, unlike a few books on this list, is actually down from the 1 year and the 90-day averages. The 9.8 has a 30-day average value of $267 with a last sale of $216. And the number 1 book on the list is Avengers Annual issue number 10. This book is the first appearance of Rogue and also of Madeline Pryor. There are currently 9,071 universal copies of this comic on the census, which includes 1 9.9 and 884 9.8s. The 9.8 has a 30-day average value of $646, but may be on an upward trend. The most recent sale for this book was $755. So there you have it. That is the countdown of the top 10 most purchased books, but I do have some bonus material for you. In the 10th spot, we had Savage She-Hulk issue number 1, but there were actually 3 other books that tied for that 10th spot, and they include Spider-Man issue number 7, X-Men issue number 1 from 1991, and Spider-Gwen issue number 1. Only time will tell whether these books are going to separate themselves from the pack, and we'll see whether they show up on lists down the road. With that said, we are going to go ahead and wrap this video up. If you want to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram at Regie Collects. Take care.
This thing on? Mic check. I just want to make sure y'all can hear me clearly. Yeah. Should you practice art? Or should art be your practice? I had a question, so I asked it. Not to anyone specifically, but to my inner God, you know? The one that's gonna be a master. The one that's more than a rapper. The one that's an educator. The one that seeks enlightenment. He travels with concepts. He's got the mindset expansive. He understands that his time combined with travel and concepts makes his mind convex. Sort of like when you look at a brain scan. Straight off meditation, we was concaving until we had that eternal dialogue that created our dialect. Now we in distinct rooms of pure souls having them conversations. Synergy and combinations. You fly and we waiting. Indian style in the gold.